welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today are Louis D'Souza and Anne-Marie Young. This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
And we're off and running with another Monday to start the week. And as I was chatting with somebody, I was making a doctor's appointment today. And as I was chatting with the receptionist, she was saying, "Oh, it's another Monday." I said, "No, that's not the way I look at it. It's another Monday." And she says, "Well, I guess that's one way to look at it."
Yeah.
But we're going to treat it like it's a Monday today. So happy Monday, everybody. And regardless
Happy
of what
Monday.
if you're listening Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's okay too. But we're doing this on Monday. And Louis, you changed your background. Where are you right now? What's that background? Is that like the Alps? I'm not sure where you are.
That's can't remember which beach that was, but it is one of my photos.
Okay. All right. Well, it's nice.
So it's
nice
real. It's a real photo of a real place.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a real fake background is what it is.
Yeah, it's a real fake background. You got it.
And we have a special guest joining us today. I've been practicing his last name. I hope I'm going to get it right. Here we go. Ready? His name is Hersh Rephun. How'd I do?
Oh, yeah. Excellent, Walt. Yes, you nailed it.
I love it. I love it.
Send me a recording of that. I'm going to use that on my LinkedIn as my pronunciation of my name. That's perfect.
Excellent,
you nailed it.
Excellent. I got it. First try. I don't always do that either, so that's cool. Well, of course, I got some coaching before we got started. I love the phonetics you gave me. It was really helpful. Very, very good. But
it doesn't always help, though, so you deserve credit. Credit.
Concentration helps, too. You have to really you have to focus. You have to focus. Decide what it is you want. Set your mind and go for it. And so I did. Yeah.
Well, what's with that sexy voice?
What's that?
Have you got a cold? What's that? What's with that sexy
voice?
I'm
kind of. I don't know what it is today. I'm kind of husky today. So when you figure it out, let me know. I don't know. No, I've been dealing with phlegm today. It's like all kinds of crazy stuff. So I'm not sure what it is, but I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to keep going. So anyway, Hersh is actually doing 2 podcasts. He's the host of Truth Tastes Funny and Yes Brand podcast. And we're going to talk a little bit about each one of those. But first, we got to talk about Hersh, because this is an interesting guy. First of all, he has an interesting way of describing himself. He is a message therapist, not a massage therapist, a message therapist. And a comedian. That'll give you a clue about how this is going to be a fun day here. But Hersh, I want you to tell your story about who you are and how you got to in your words, because I'll probably just mess it up if I try.
Well, and the good news is if I mess it up, only I'll know. And then
that's
if you
true,
were to mess it up,
I would
know.
Fact checking here, right?
Right. There's no fact checking. So to the best of my knowledge, here's my story. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you. Great to be on with all of you. So I was born in Miami Beach, Florida, and had a kind of a really fun childhood that was filled with laughter, a lot of laughter in my house. It was also kind of a little bit of a strictly religious Jewish household, Orthodox household, but that kind of provided me with a lot of fodder right off the bat, because with comedy, you have to blend reality and a little bit of irony and a little bit of perspective. And so on the one hand, I was raised in this, very beautiful religious home, but at the same time, they loved comedy. The only problem is that, comedy is not a career for a nice Orthodox Jewish boy. So the only thing was, we love comedy, just don't go into it. Just don't be a comedian.
Right.
And to try to actually maintain both existences, not work on Saturday, not work in show business really. I went into advertising, and I enjoyed that very much. I was successful in it, not from a point of view of writing ads, which is a lot of what I do now, actually, but in PR for people who created advertising. So I did PR in a very, very niche place. And I was in New York. I worked with New York and LA, and I worked with some of the biggest production companies and post-production companies, directors, commercial filmmakers in the business. Some of them went on to win Oscars, and So it was great to be close to the action, so to speak, but I always felt creatively I missed the stage. I missed doing stand up. I missed writing comedy. And so as I got a little bit older, I would start to do appearances, write comedy when it suited me, do some copywriting for some of my contacts, write some movies that got made, some kind of funny, quirky cult movies, and I shaped this kind of dual existence, thinking really that at one point I would switch over to be just completely creative. And then what I realized is I am kind of completely creative. It's just I help people who are in the business of being creative or of selling their product do it, more effectively because I'm good with the words that they may not be as good with. But where I came up with the notion of selling the truth, what I say is, you always have to sell the truth, is that it's never been for me about BSing the audience. It's always about sharing the truth. And so if a brand or a private business owner or executive wants to put their best foot forward, they obviously can't just make up their resume. They can't lie about it. They gotta come clean and be lovable and appreciated for who they are. And humor often helps us break the ice and laugh at ourselves a little bit. And if we don't take ourselves too seriously, then the people we're selling our wares to or trying to communicate or engage with won't take themselves too seriously, and we'll be on to something. So the message therapy came from thinking, you know what? Yes, I am a copywriter. I am a creative director. Professionally, that certainly is something I do. So if somebody wants to write an ad or they need business writing, they want to redo their image or their bio or press release, whatever it might be, I do it. But a lot of it is I talk and I listen. So the first part of working with the client is always talking and listening. And now on the Truth Tastes Funny podcast, I listen and talk with people from all walks of life who've been through all kinds of challenging things. And I listen a lot more. So I think the message therapy thing is kind of apt. And that kind of is where I'm at now with these dual podcasts, these two podcasts, one personal development oriented, but also being able to laugh in the face of reality. The Yes Brand podcast, which launches in late November, which will help business owners and executives get their message out in a way that breaks the ice with their audience, and doing that for clients and doing that professionally.
I love that. I especially love the fact that you're a copywriter, and the story that you're telling us about how you approach it is vastly different from most copywriters that I've ever interacted with. And I've interacted with quite a few of them. I have a bit of a marketing background that enabled me to do that. Copywriting is, for those who are really good at it, is a very well-paid profession for good reason, because the good copywriters are able to help generate a significant number of sales. That's why they get hired. But again, most of the ones that I interacted with, they were always interested in pushing buttons. And you don't sound like a button pusher, and I like that. I mean, am I missing a button here?
You're not missing a button. That's very good. You're not missing a button, Walt. But it's interesting that you mention that, because I think there's a difference between pushing people's buttons to get a reaction and really being bold enough to work with the truth and reality in some of its less beautiful, iterations, and just to connect. And obviously, I think people talk about authenticity all the time these days, and that Gen Z wants authenticity. And I have kids. My kids range in age from 30 to 8.
Wow.
And so I have 5 of them. And so I have all the generational research that I need.
Yeah.
To be able to target all audiences. Now that said, I don't know that I really understand teenagers. I don't know that I don't know that. Yeah, I mean that's the one. If there were five different demos, and I was offered a job to copyright for all but one of them, I would say I'll pass on the teenage one.
Okay.
Just for the moment because I'm not quite sure, but I still feel like engaging is what we're after. So the button people will always say to your point that you have to be memorable, which is true. You have to be memorable as a copywriter, and if you're a little bit inflammatory, you may be memorable or even push a button. But I think what really makes somebody memorable is being in touch with themselves and being engaged, and my reaction to a certain club soda is not going to be the same as another person's. And so my reaction or the reaction that they were looking for is really the reaction we're going for. Shock value only goes so far.
Okay. It's a side tangent there, but I wanted to touch on it. So thanks for clarifying. I like what you're saying. So let's talk a little bit more about the podcasts that you do, and also how did you describe it that you are a message therapist? Now, does that
Yes.
mean that you're writing people's messages, or you're working with people who are trying to get control of their own message?
Well, it really is. I still am the writer. So, in other words, I'm not coaching them on how to write. I'm not telling them
Okay.
I'm not coaching them per se. But like any branding consultant, I'm analyzing their brand and their challenges and their vision and their mission, and I'm providing guidance, but I'm also giving them the taglines, the copy that I feel will best reflect their voice. So I'm looking to help them find their voice, but I'm
Okay.
going to ultimately be responsible probably for putting it into words.
And you also used one of my favorite words, perspective. One of
Yeah.
the things that I love to talk about here is how all the different guests and co-hosts, everybody that I interact with, have so many different fascinating, interesting perspectives. Right here with this group, Louis and Anne Marie, I obviously the show LOA today has originally been about the law of attraction, and indeed we've talked a lot about that. Um, I love Louis's perspective. Louis brings, if you're familiar with Abraham Hicks, he brings an Abraham Hicks perspective,
Ah,
and
yeah.
really very simplified. He like breaks it down to the simplest ways of understanding things, which I love. Um, but then again, I could get somebody else in here talking about it, and they're going to bring in a completely different perspective. And what those different perspectives do for me, I'm curious to know what your take is on this. But what these perspectives do for me is they give me new ways of thinking about stuff, even if it's stuff I don't like. And that's the part that I find to be
Yeah.
really interesting. The stuff, people will express something, and I'll say to myself, "Oh, that just doesn't feel right inside." And then I'll ask myself, why doesn't it feel right inside? And then they're expressing why it doesn't feel right without me even asking them, like, oh, so there's a piece of me right there that I never really explored before. And so I learn about myself just by hearing other people's perspectives. So I'm curious to know, when you talk about perspective, is that what you're talking about, or do you think about something different?
No, that I think you're spot on with that. I feel like we're becoming too afraid to be uncomfortable with a perspective. Like we don't have to listen to anyone else's perspective if we don't want to. Is the reality. We can live in a bubble and not take in any news, information, opinion, or anything that is different from ours. But I love the idea, as you point out, of analyzing why it upsets us or something makes us feel like what is why can't we question it? So much of it is probably built into our makeup for so many different reasons.
All right. So okay, I think we've laid out the kind of the broad frame here, and I'm not sure where anybody wants to go on this one, but I'm going to go to Anne Marie first, and you've been listening. Oh, Louis raising his hand. I guess I'm going to Louis first, and then we'll go to Anne Marie second. What's up, Louis?
Hersh, I wanted to ask you, what did you think, based on your background, of the marvelous Miss Maisel?
Oh, I love it. I love that
Yeah, I
show.
thought you would. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
love that show. And the
Yeah.
writing is so brilliant, both narratively in terms of the storytelling and the character development and all of that, and the patter that they just have such a knack for. Because it's like, if I as a writer, I would look at something like that and go, wow, that's ballsy to bite that off, like to try to nail a period, nail a certain type of, it's a certain type of comedy that they're
The religion, everything, you know. Yeah.
yeah, all the from the subject matter to the pacing and the beats. It's a wonderful show. It's a really wonderful show.
Have either of you guys watched it, Walter and Emery?
I'm not familiar with
No.
it. No.
No. Oh,
No.
you must watch it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's pretty much what Hersh is. I mean, everything you're doing seems to be in there, you know.
Well, not
It's just that
not
you're a male and
podcasting.
she's a female, but
Right, yeah.
But so I'm going to say this to Anne Marie to get her to watch it. I'm going to say the next time I see you on the podcast, I'm going to say tits up.
Okay.
Okay.
Every time she gets on stage, she gets told tits up.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel I need to watch this now. Just to
Now you okay? Mission
Yeah.
accomplished. Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
You won't be disappointed. You won't be
No, you
disappointed,
won't.
Anne Marie.
Very well done. Must have
So
been.
what was it called again?
The Marvelous Miss Maisel. It is
Okay.
free on either Netflix or Prime.
Yeah, I think
No.
it's on Prime. The
Luke,
Marvelous
by the
Mrs.
way.
Maisel. What was that, Walt?
Okay.
Oh yeah, Luke Martaza. He's listening in on the live stream. So Louis
Oh.
saying hello to Luke. So good to
Hello,
see you,
Luke.
Yeah.
The name of the show. So Luke, it's The Marvelous Miss Maisel.
It's actually Mrs. If
Mrs.
you
Maisel.
want to.
Oh, sorry, it is. You're right.
Yes,
It is
MRS. Yeah, if you want to.
MAISEL.
If you
looks
want to
like.
pick Nates.
Yeah. Set in the 50s. Okay. A seemingly idyllic life in the 50s. Yeah, there's an old storyline that's been played a lot. But all right, I'll check it out. See what's what. Sounds interesting.
Luke, you'll have to watch it and let me know what you think as well.
I think Luke will watch it.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if he does. So, Emery, I'm going to go to you now. So you're listening to Hersh, and obviously this is a little bit different kind of topic from what we have often talked about on the show. I'm wondering what you're thinking about it.
I like it. I like the fact that just opening up different ways of thinking with other people, and I like the idea of using comedy. I think like people take things so seriously, and to bring a bit of an element of comedy into a business or whatever it may be just brings that little bit more joy. But I just wondered, do you ever get people who get offended by bringing the comedy aspect into it?
No, honestly, and I think it goes back to our first part of this discussion, in that it all, to me, where offense happens is based on a perception or the reality of what's intended. So
Yeah.
if someone intends to get a rise out of you, get you upset, get you, insult, whatever it might be, that's where the perceived offense is. And I think that for whatever reason, my style has always been geared with an intent to entertain and not to offend. And sometimes it didn't work, but it's not something that happens, with any regularity, that people are offended, because it isn't offense type of stuff.
Yeah. I just did that. There's a lot of comedians over here, certainly in the UK, who just seem to be don't even actually want to go back on stage anymore because everybody seems to just get offended. So I just wondered if you'd come across that.
Oh, that's a good point.
You're talking about the canceling or the woke attitude. Yes. Mm.
Yeah. That I think that there is a lot of that now. I think that my hope is, while I don't tend to stir those things up, I do feel that claustrophobia that sets in among comics and comedians that feel there's a kind of a patrol, a false patrol out there, that a comedy patrol, or people within comedy that, that reject one point of view over another, like we were talking. The whole idea of comedy is to be irreverent. So it's not about placating people's sensitivities, for sure, but if you can establish trust with the audience, and if the audience is mature enough, I think it's on the audience in a lot of ways. It's the audience has to be a mature audience that can take a joke, and the joke is probably going to be at everyone's, if you go, most comedians, they're equal opportunity offenders if they're going to say anything at anyone's expense. Don Rickles is the gold standard.
Yes,
because his whole career was based on him being an insult comic, so to speak, and what he really was someone who had tremendous sweetness and empathy, and it always came out in the end, and it came out in his patter, in his going to people randomly. Everybody was a joke. Everybody had something wrong with them. And what that points out is that we all have, none of us can point fingers. We all have something silly, wrong, uncomfortable, stupid, so.
I like that because it goes back to what Walt said a minute ago, isn't it? That if you're triggered by something, then that's something for you to investigate and something for you to explore.
Yeah.
So Hersh, I've got a question for you. This is probably quite well known. I'll be surprised if any of you don't know it, but it's possible. Ahmed and the Dead Terrorist.
Oh, that sounds familiar to me, but honestly, I don't. I don't want to confuse it with something else. So, Louis, tell me.
Well, it's a ventriloquist who brings out his dead terrorist skeleton and talks about going and blowing himself up on a.
Oh, but it's a comedian that does this.
Yeah, it's
right?
a comedian.
So it's a character.
Yeah.
So it's a character from that guy. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I mean, would you? I don't know if you know it well, but
are you not saying his name for a reason, or can we say his name that you're talking about?
Name, sure.
Jeff Dunham. Is that who is Jeff Dunham?
To be honest, I don't know who he is, but I just enjoyed it immensely personally.
Yeah, I you know what? It's funny. I've been hearing about that for years, and the reason I didn't get the character right away is because I'm not that tuned into it. So I think on some level, what must have happened to me, because I went through a period about 10 years ago where I really studied comedy intensely, stand-up comedy specifically. So I was watching every comedian. I was just doing like my own with a couple of friends, comedians, boot camp, my own boot camp. And we looked at Jeff Dunham, but I kind of immediately had a little bit of just disinterest, because the fact that it seemed to play so hard on stereotype automatically, and I don't know if it does or not, it automatically turned me off, because I thought, oh, well, that's not going to be interesting. I don't know whether he means to hurt anybody or not, but it's not going to be interesting to me, because it's going to be a trope. It's going to be So I think in the back of my mind, every time I've heard his name since, that's where I go, because I'm always looking to be inspired by people's original take on something. And to me, it didn't seem like that's what we were going to get.
I love that because I'm totally with you on the stereotype thing. Anything that's stereotyped, especially comedy, but anything that's stereotyped in entertainment. I sit back and say to myself, can we please move past this fast? Because I'm really getting bored.
Yeah. Yeah, it's boring.
It is. To me, that.
Well, I can tell you when
Oh, go ahead.
When I watched it, well, you know, I was very, very serious about life. You know, why am I here from a very young age, from a kid?
Right.
So, you know, when I read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I was laughing myself absolutely silly because it was now taking a very serious subject and making it funny. And of course, he's taking terrorists and all the rest of it and making it extremely funny and putting it in a way that I found absolutely hilarious. So I thought he did a brilliant job. And then if you watch the whole thing, he slams the Christians and other groups and the Jews and other things as well. So, you know, he wasn't only picking on one, but he just did it so well. I thought it was absolutely brilliantly done. But, you know, I'm sure somebody hates me because I think it's brilliant. It's whatever.
Well, that would be their, yeah, that would be their problem because exactly. I think I definitely am willing to take a look at him because I can't, having really not scrutinized him very closely, I can only say what I said, which was that my impression was it wasn't interesting. So,
well, you know, there's two aspects here. He's a ventriloquist and he is a comedian. And to put all that together on stage, he just did such a brilliant job. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a skill, no doubt. It's a big skill.
And what kind of demographic? Well, what is his audience like? Like, do you know?
No idea. I just
whether
watched
he has a broader audience or.
I mean, it was a huge audience. I mean, massive.
Yeah, he has big crowds. Yeah.
Yeah, but what the demographic is, clueless. You know, it's not something I would take cognizance of. Something you might, but to me, I was just enjoying his presentation.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that his audience probably are people who are kind of saturated with all the talk about terrorism and they just need a release on it.
Yeah, but this is old. I mean, this must be 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, well, it's been around a while, yeah. But I mean, it's not like terrorism is a new thing. You know, it's been around for a while too. And I think that's who reacts to it. People who are just saying, "Oh God, I'm so tired of this terrorism thing," and then here comes the way to make it laugh. Like, okay, now I can release because I'm laughing at it.
Well, you know, and thinking about that, Walt, and Anne Marie's question also about people taking offense, it's with the Truth Tastes Funny podcast, the idea of looking at reality and laughing at it is really, really integral to the show. And yet I feel that freedom gives us room to get more emotionally resonant, actually. So just because we're being funny doesn't mean I have a mandate. I have to make fun of every topic. But I find the guests sometimes talking about things and letting that humor in and letting the releases come. And I feel like it brings tremendous balance to it. And I've had guests on who've dealt with, you know, suicide in their family. I've had guests on who went through incredible bouts with drug addiction. And in both cases, humor was a huge part of their catharsis and what they bring, you know, their sense of humor, not about a specific tragedy, but about the larger picture of what they might have done or experienced or suffered. The larger picture, you know, not pointing at a specific event and going, that's a joke. It's more, okay, but let's look at the big picture of looking at ourselves and giving ourselves a little break. You know,
it's kind of like when I'm trying to maintain perspective or gain perspective on something. One of the techniques that I use, Anne Marie knows this one real well because it came from a boot camp we went through that we both have been through. It's a perspective that says, you know, imagine that you're rising up from the earth, going out into outer space and going way, way, way out until you look back and you see the earth is this little tiny speck. So basically it's a way of saying my problems are about that big.
Yeah.
And when you have that perspective, it feels different. It feels
Yeah.
very, very different just because you've attained a new perspective. That when I was referring to perspective before, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, it's so cool when you just think about it from an entirely different viewpoint that you never thought of before, and it helps in some way. It gives
Yeah.
you some juice. It gives you some motivation to explore something else, whatever. But it helps. It helps to kind of shift you a little bit.
Yeah. That's why I'm looking forward to going into space at some point. I don't know it's going to cost a lot of money. It's pretty expensive still to go into space, but it'd be nice to see the world from that perspective.
Yeah.
And just really be able to laugh at what's going on down there.
Well, it's interesting. William Shatner went out into space
Yeah.
recently,
He
and he came back quite traumatized.
He was traumatized. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Was
still
he
haven't
really?
Just
figured
the
that out.
contrast between the warm, comfortable Earth and the dark, cold space was just horrendous for him.
Well, I think what it really was, he brought it with him, his fears about climate change. And so he got out into space and he saw how thin the atmosphere is compared to the rest of the planet. He said, oh my God, that's all that's protecting us from calamity. And that became the basis for his spiral,
right.
if you will.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame him. But it is, well, he was also very open to the experience. So emotionally, I think he went into that with such a kind of a clean slate. And that's why that hit him so directly. But it is interesting to look at. Yeah.
And it just shows what happens. You get 5 different people going out into space and you get 5 different views about what it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got this idea of what we think we'll feel, but we don't really know until we get there.
Until you get there, right?
Yeah.
And of course, now you've got like SpaceX and so forth that are talking about these lunar and Mars missions, and there are people, young people mostly, who are volunteering. You can go to websites where you can volunteer to be considered for one of those missions, particularly the mission going to Mars. And the viewpoint of the people who are wanting to do that is so very different from my own, but it's really interesting to listen to them. They're really enthusiastic. From my perspective, it's like, wow, you're gonna be stuck in a tin can for about 6 months, and maybe you won't even come back. And their perspective is, whoa, this is gonna be great.
Yeah. I want to know if I would look at my phone while I was in space. Would I be that addicted to social media and to my phone that I would literally look at it? Like, why would I even look at it? I would put it in some kind of thing, but it would be like, I could see that happening. It's like, it's like that, and I grab it out of the thing.
Oops, no reception.
No reception. That's what I was thinking. You got
can you throw me your phone? Are you getting a?
I see. I'll just be there going, look, selfie with a star, selfie with a star, selfie with another star.
Selfie with empty space.
Well, that's the other thing that's interesting about the reports that we've gotten from people who have been out in space is, well, because there's no atmosphere, you see a whole lot more starlight. There's just the heavens are just saturated with stars compared to what we see here on Earth. And the way that people respond and react to that view also varies significantly. Some people are just marveling at the wonder and the beauty of the universe. Some people are almost terrified because they feel so small compared to the whole thing. Some people are just amazed that it could be there and we would not know about it. And all different valid viewpoints, but just different ways of looking at the exact same experience.
Yeah.
And through that exact same experience, it's got to be an overwhelming one because it's not normal, if you will. It's not part of your daily experience down here. So, it's a kind of a once in a lifetime thing. It's going to really impact you. It's going to really, drive itself home to you. And yet it still comes down to how you're going to decide to look at it. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. I don't know why I love that so much, but I do. And is it really empty, Louis? I'm not sure there's really such a thing as empty space. I'm not sure there really is.
Well, when I go there, I'll tell you.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Well, I lived in New York for 13 years, and I can tell there's no such thing as empty space. There's very little space for each of us. but
Especially
we
in New York
make it
City.
I
work.
hear there's
Yeah.
a new book out, and it's all about what would happen to New York if all the people vanished, and what would happen on day 3 and 1 month and 2 months, and how nature would reclaim the entire place in almost no time.
No.
Well, who would know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. If there's nobody there, how would
Really?
who's reporting?
Well, I mean, you could have a look at maybe some of the jungle civilizations and see,
Right.
get an idea of how long it would take to do X, Y, Z. Yeah.
Well, first we have to get on the spaceship, get out of the solar system, then do that experiment that Louis talking about, where everybody disappears, and then we can watch it from the comfort of our shuttle, and then figure out what's next. I think it would be an interesting adventure.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting experiment. So who's volunteering?
I was just thinking we better take our chargers so we can take some photos.
Yeah, here's my Calendly. Go just find an opening and I'll book me for a shuttle tour outside the solar system.
I think I'm just going to move
Yeah.
away from New York City. It sounds like not the place to be. I mean, that's the kind of thing that can turn into a legend later on. Like the legend of Atlantis. This is the legend of New York City.
Right.
Did that place actually really exist? No, I think that was just made up.
It was done best in Escape from New York. John Carpenter is in it, I think.
I'm not sure who did it, but yes,
I think so.
I know the movie.
But I remember being very I had never been to New York, I think, when I saw that movie, Escape from New York, and I was like, this is where I'm going to college? What the
Yeah,
hell am I
right.
doing? What the hell am I doing? And interestingly, it was exactly like that. It was exactly like that, but like that movie. It was terrifying. But New York is also beautiful and amazing and constantly changing and vibrant, alive. And it's like, you have to take everything in its shares that it deals you.
It's always that perspective thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how
Always
much it comes back.
to that.
Always. Now, another topic we talk about a lot, and I'm going to be curious to know what your take is mindset. Because mindset is like at the beginning of any enterprise, it's at the beginning of any activity, any pursuit that you have in life. There's always mindset involved in it. And I'm wondering, when you think about mindset, how have you applied mindset in your life? And how do you think about mindset? Or do you think about mindset? Maybe you don't think it, maybe you just kind of ignore it. I don't know.
No, I think I'm newly awakened to mindset. I think what happened over the last, now the pandemic has, I'm sure, a lot to do with it, but about a year and a half ago, I started pursuing more personal development type, things like meditation. I was already exercising, but I was starting to be more mindful and just focusing on that. With my business partner in my little ad agency that we have, we decided to build a nonprofit, and that wasn't completely altruistic. I mean, things were frozen, in time during the early part of the pandemic. So the idea to do good was, I think it was wonderful that we decided to do something like that rather than worry or freak out or have to freak out about how the agency would survive. It was more, look, everybody's on a pause here. Let's not waste this time. We're creative people. We know a lot of artists, so let's do something. And so we did it. But the trajectory was meditation, self-reflection, looking at my career and trying to figure out what I wanted out of it, and therein lie the realities of mindset. Well, how much of it is what I'm thinking are my limitations, and how much of it are really my limitations, and why, and what's my why, and from there, to figure out those things, you can start working on, can I change my mindset, and I think it goes to a willingness a willingness and desire to do so is like the first thing. Even hypnosis, if you think about it, requires usually, from what I understand, a willingness from the subject to be hypnotized. Um, and I've been delving into a little bit of quantum consciousness and things like that I feel can be really, really helpful if you are disposed to welcome the input. You know, so I mean, I think mindset is the most complex way of describing our condition as human beings. How did we get the mindset that we have, and can we get a better one? Where can I get a better one?
Yeah.
You know?
I had I had an ulterior motive for bringing in the concept of mindset.
Okay.
Because we're going to do something now. We actually haven't had the opportunity to do a lot lately because for the last 6-8 months, it's been almost purely just bring on a guest and get to know the guest. But one thing we used to do quite a bit is address listener issues. And we actually got a listener question.
Great.
And I know something about this guy's story. If you guys want to, I'll tell you more of the story, but I want to just read his thing first and let each of you guys address it. He's actually a longtime listener. He's been listening. I've been doing the show, Hersh, for a little over 10 years. He's been listening for 9 years. So this is like one of my longest term listeners. Yeah. His name is Jack. And I'll just read his question as he's written it, and we can address that. And then if you have more questions, I know a little bit more about his situation, so I can fill in blanks if you want. Hersh, I'll have you answer first, and then we'll let Louis and Anne-Marie answer as well. But we're trying to help this guy out. He says, how does one manifest quickly, have detachment from the outcome, and know when they are receiving that manifestation? And also, maybe a side part, if I could, he says, what are the steps that could help to receive financial stability and henceforth happiness? And he says, thank you for responding. And you and the show are a true blessing. So pretty simple stuff. Actually, Hersh, now that I think about it, I'm going to go to Louis first because Louis does a good job on this particular topic. And then we'll go to you and we'll go to Anne-Marie. So Louis, take a stab at what Jack was saying.
Well, the statement he's making there is, when I have money, then I'll be happy. But it actually works the other way around. You got to get happy, then the money comes. And to understand that, you understand the emotional guidance scale. You understand that when you make decisions, when you're happy, they're more likely to work out, or they're very likely to work out. If you make decisions when you're not happy, then they're not going to work out. So, getting yourself in that happy place first and foremost is key. But understanding the philosophy, understanding what I'm saying very, very clearly, that there is no other way. Get yourself into that better place first, and then move forward. And don't broach the subject directly. Find a dog or a cat or a loved one or a daughter or son or parent or somebody you love, and focus on something that is easy for you to get into that place first, and then work your way around.
All right, that's good. Hersh, do you want to go give it a shot?
Yeah. So repeat the question, Walt, so that I can kind of Sure. I don't want to be flippant about the answer.
Sure.
Or over direct, because my expertise in this area is very limited. But
no, that's all right, no problem. So what he says is, how does one manifest quickly, have detachment from the outcome, and know when they are receiving said manifestation? Also, what are the steps that could help to receive financial stability and henceforth happiness?
Right. And the one that I had forgotten was the be detached from the outcome. And I have definitely felt that way in the past. Oh my God, I wish that I could just be okay with whatever happens. Don't expect anything, not don't hold the world accountable for the things that I'm trying. And that is a mindset issue. And all of this to me seems like it does go back to mindset, where the idea of the limitless mindset is not just a setting in the mind, it's a belief. So the belief that you have a limitless mindset, the sincere belief that that you can manifest is really the secret. So whatever you have to do to get there, whether it's serving others and being selfless, whether it's investing in yourself and your mission, whether it's really scrutinizing what you believe your mission is to see if that's what really is going to make you happy. You just scrutinize all these things so that you get closer and closer to believing it. Because I think it's like love in the sense that you know it when you see it. So you kind of may know that you believe in this limitless, abundance. You'll know it when you feel it, but it's not an intellectual choice, in my opinion.
That's cool. Anne-Marie, you want to take a swing?
Yeah, mine's not dissimilar to both of them, really. It's kind of letting go of what it is you want. If you try, because you're always manifesting. It's not that you're manifesting quickly or slowly. You're always manifesting, and you, as Louis said, focus on feelings that make you feel good. Focus on love. Focus on what you give out, what you want to return. So, kind of let go of the I want money, I want money, I want money, because you're just going to keep batting it out. It's not because it's a need, it's a want, it's not what you're giving out. So I would go into the moment, go into what you're grateful for, go into the mass appreciation, realize that you're going to get what you give out, and release for the best possible outcome. I will get what I desire at the right time, and I'm going to trust and believe in that.
I like that. That's really good. Go ahead.
Well, there was something that I picked up when you reread the question. He said, how will I know when I've got it? And there's two ways you'll know. One is you'll be feeling better, and the other one is it'll manifest.
Yeah.
That's how you know. Those are the two signs when it's working.
And I had one more thing to say about
Sure.
the money aspect that Anne-Marie touched on, is that I feel like it's possible to have a very adversarial relationship with money, to resent it, to think that everybody else has it and you don't, to think of it as an adversary, as something that is pulling itself away from you, and chasing it isn't the thing either. So the grabbing and the pulling isn't what it's about. It's about flow, and this is simple, but it really is true, because we get in our own way so much that we're angry when we think about money, and we have to think about money as true or not, real or whatever, money as something that wants to flow freely and to
Energy.
us and around us. Yes, very well said. Think of money as energy. Think of money as positive energy. And if it's in someone's hands right now, they're going to let go of it, and it's going to go through somewhere and hopefully do something good, and then pass on to another person, do something good, and then pass on to another person. So if we think of it as energy, that's really well said. That's but not as no tension, as a magnetic kind of resistance situation.
There's that
Reverse
statement,
magnet.
Emotion is energy in motion.
Yeah. True.
So when you get into that really happy place, you're allowing the energy of money to start flowing towards you. That's kind of my breakdown.
And
Good way to describe it.
I would also sort of focus on, is money the actual outcome that you desire, or is there a feeling around the perception of having money? And is it the feeling that you want? Is it you want that security, that stability? It doesn't necessarily have to be about the money. So try and focus on how you want to feel, what you desire.
Now, I also know something about the circumstances he's in. It's actually him and his girlfriend, and they're in a town where they don't know anybody, and it's a town I think in Oklahoma. It's so they're feeling very much adrift. They aren't even meeting basic expenses yet. So, and I know what that's like. That I've been there. That's a rough place to be because you just don't even know if you're going to have a home tomorrow or next week or next month or whatever. And it's just really, really tough. I can say that when I was in that place and my wife and I were in that place about 10 years ago, actually, about the time we started the podcast, a little bit afterward, I finally reached a point where I said, I don't know how to get out of this. I mean, I'm doing everything I can. We're doing everything we can. Nothing seems to be working. I just don't know how to get out of this. So I'm just going to give up on the idea that I'm going to find the way out of this. And within days, not months or weeks, within days of that, we finally found the path that took us out of it. Now, it was a long, drawn-out path. It took time to go through it, but that was the starting point. Just letting go of the idea that I've got to figure out what the path is. I got to figure out what the solution is, because you can drive yourself nuts doing that. I'm speaking from long experience. You're really good at it. If you really want to just drive yourself crazy, you can do it. And in so doing, you're basically going to drive money away.
Yeah, we're kicking up a lot of noise around the objective. You know, I've been in that situation too, where you can't force a solution, right? In that moment that you're so tense, but if something distracts you and takes your mind off it, you know, try to come up with a great line of copy when you're sitting in your office, you know, staring at a blank screen, but eventually you're going to have to go to the bathroom. And I guarantee you, when you come back, you'll have at least one tagline that popped into your head while you weren't even thinking about it, you know, or a siren goes off, or something happens, or one of the kids calls, or somebody needs something. And that moment away from focusing on your problem can often supply you the answer. So it's may not be about thinking harder. It may be about getting. And I know it's hard to get away from it when it's that tight, and you feel it. But I think if we imagine that it's possible for something to get us away from it, just distract us, not solve the problem, just distract us, then maybe we can get distracted long enough for things to get shaked up a little bit.
Good answers, guys. Anything more that anyone wants to add?
Yeah, play Dan's money game.
Oh, good idea.
Because that's fun. Make it fun, earning money, or money flowing to you.
Yeah.
There's another thing that I played, and I don't know if any of you know Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, but his game,
it's brilliant.
Cash Flow 101 is brilliant. You know, it really gets you thinking out of the box and how to get out of the rat race.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Yeah,
it's very good.
Well worth it.
Because 2 years ago, I wrote into the show myself because my husband was being made redundant, and I had the same concerns. And at the end of this year, my husband's contract's up, but actually he's just been given a pay rise. They've just extended his contract because I was in, I'm just going to trust. And 2 years ago, I wasn't. I was, what are we going to do? But just by letting go and sorry? You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I was very grateful for a whole show dedicated to my situation. But
was it a Monday show with Louis? I got the feeling it was a Monday
It was Louis, yeah.
It was so Louis, yeah. Okay, I thought so.
But I'm to blame again.
You are, but in a good way.
But in a good way, Louis, as ever, learning from you, the master guru. But yeah, just letting go and just thinking, okay, well, what will be. It's out of my control. Me worrying about it's not going to do any good. So just trying to release and just seeing little things flow up.
Yeah.
I always wanted to burst into song recently. Whatever will be.
Singing and music have gotten me through a lot of
me too.
A lot of difficult times. You know.
I agree.
And the other thing, that question, Walt, you said the guy was in Oklahoma. So immediately So immediately my thoughts went to the only thing I know about Oklahoma was Paint Your Wagon musical.
Oh,
And then I went to do song again, you know.
Yeah.
What was it? I was born under a wall. Looking
I
at
love
Walt's background there.
Very
When
nice.
I get to heaven, tie me to a tree, 'cause if I break free, I'll be wandering around or something.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
Actually, it also reminds me one of the reasons that it's so good to just kind of give up and let go is when you give up and let go, the only thing you can do is just take the steps that are in front of you because you don't have a plan anymore.
Yeah.
And when you don't have the plan anymore and you're just taking the steps that's in front of you, you're not worrying anymore because there's nothing else to worry. There's nothing you can do at that point. It's outside of your control. So all you can do is just take the next step. You have no idea where it's going to go. You have no idea how it's going to possibly work out. But because you're not worrying about the future, because you can't worry because there's nothing to worry about anymore, then the future actually starts working out. It's kind of an odd thing.
And stay true to yourself too, which is that it's sometimes within you are solutions that you don't see. Like one example is that I when I was younger, but I had 3 kids, so I had responsibilities, and I was at a job, and they let me go, but it wasn't their preference to let me go. It was kind of there was a political thing, and I was the sacrificial lamb. Let's put it that way. So it was like I was the newest person, although I'd been there for a couple years, but I was still the newest in the executive ranks, and this is how it went. And they were very kind about it, and I was very graceful and gracious about it. And one of the partners said to me, "Look, I really appreciate how, just how you've been through this. This is like not fun for anybody." And I said, "It's okay. I understand. And then a little while later, I started my own firm and took them on as a client. They were my first client, was this big company, production company that I had worked for that had to fire me. And instead of holding any kind of resentment, I acknowledged the situation. I was nice as I would always be nice. I didn't let myself get torn up about it, even though it was terrifying to have that happen.
Sure.
And then they became, my first client and like a magnet for other clients. So, there's unexpected benefits to being yourself and just kind of holding on to your values.
And that's the key to what you just said, because you didn't expect that was going to happen, right?
No. Yeah.
So that was a complete surprise.
Yeah.
That's cool stuff. Hey, this has been great. We'd love to have you on the show. Once again, the podcasts are Truth Tastes. Well, I can't read my own writing.
Truth Tastes Funny.
Funny, that's what it is. That's a you.
Yeah.
Okay. No.
Truth Tastes Funny.
I have a new way to create a you. All right, that's good to know. And Yes Brand is the other podcast.
And Yes Brand, but Yes Brand you won't find out on the platforms yet. But Truth Tastes Funny is on Apple Podcasts and on all the
Spotify,
platforms,
all that stuff.
Yeah, and our first season is all available, 30 episodes.
Well, so when's Yes Brand?
2.
When is that?
Yes Brand. Yes Brand is due to launch in late November, early December.
Okay.
But definitely before the end of the year. But we're recording episodes for it now.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. This
Thank
has been
you
fun.
all.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Great to meet you. Louis, Anne-Marie, and Walt, thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed it. I really appreciate it.
And
Great energy.
One thing I make it a point to do is I also like to thank our guests for something that they don't get thanked for. And you definitely deserve this as well. We have many people who we never meet, we never see, who we're influencing and affecting in ways that we don't know about. And so on their behalf, thank you for what you've been doing, what you're doing with your podcast, with your visits to other podcasts, your writings, and so on and so forth, because you, like so many people, deserve that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
All right. And thank you to Luke, who is listening on the live stream, and to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care, everyone.